So, but yeah, when we look at it, each season, each game is its own entity. So there's some things you take with you from the past, but not a lot.
Kind of a far cry from last year, Josue. It's like not even Thanksgiving, and the Celtics have already accomplished everything they possibly can in the regular season, like at least from a signature win standpoint.
Yeah, Larry, it's incredible because the focus of this team, you would think that these guys have been around each other for more than a month. It's incredible what Brad Stevens has been able to put together here, the system that everyone is buying in from top to bottom. I mean, you night in and night out, you're not 100% sure which player is going to come up big, but someone does, and it seems like it's someone different every single time.
I had Chris Forsberg here last week, and he did his specialty of just taking the theme of the show completely wayward. So I'm going to make this show the actual review of the predictions, which I've now been dying to do. I know it's very early to do so, be it not being Thanksgiving, but considering so many of my preseason predictions were all completely wayward, and that being the number one of being slow start for the Celtics, that is a complete whiff on my end. Do you have your own slew of predictions that you've been looking at that, just say, oh my God, I'm already like, no way?
Well, it's funny. I have a few, and these are predictions that I made after Gordon Hayward went down. The ones that I made beforehand.
Like the Celtics would fall to a 6 seed and all that stuff.
Yeah, but you know what? Believe it or not, I did have them winning over 50 games, or at least 50, 51. I'm gonna say 51. I just think the Eastern Conference is just
after Hayward, right?
So weak. I mean, I don't think I've seen it this week ever, honestly. I mean, of course, you're going to have your given track games, as they call it, every now and then. But for the most part, I mean, we can't even predict who's going to be the top 5 lottery teams right now. It's so bad. It's almost like a fight for the bottom.
Actually, that was the one prediction that I got right. Was not even prediction, but it was one of the themes that I was talking about right before the year, and I thought that was the one thing that the Celtics had going for them, was that they were going to be able to feast on so many poor teams in the Eastern Conference, where the East, as we know, it's been weak pretty much since, I mean, I hate to say this is now such a long time ago, but outside of the Garnett and LeBron, in Miami, and LeBron in the first go-around in Cleveland, outside of that little run, the East has been atrocious since post-Jordan. And I even thought this year, going into the year, I was like, this could very well be the worst Eastern Conference. And that was what was going to save the Celtics coming into this year, which I was very skittish of the fact that they had to work in all these new players from, the top of the roster, be it, I hate to say his name again, Gordon Hayward, who we know is not going to come back, Kyrie, and all the way down. And I was going right all the way back. Brad Stevens, there was going to be a ton of lineup experimentation. That was the theme of the last few years. Believe it or not, our great researcher, Greg Casoli, who writes for Celtics blog, actually, he did a great job on Celtics Roundtable. I'm not sure if he caught that on the YouTube channel. You should have, right? Because you're on the YouTube channel all the time. But
I am, yeah. Of course I caught that. Come on, Larry.
He pointed out to me, and I'll point out to everyone listening, that the Celtics have played 9 separate 5-man lineup combinations more than 15 minutes. All but one have a positive net rating. Last year, I think it was something like 3, because I remember doing a show around January with Coach Nick, and that was a time they were still lineup experimenting, and that was really when they first started to get rolling. I can't remember what their record was at one point mid-December last year. I want to say it was like 13-12 because they were mucking it around. And then, of course, I know we're going to talk about this at some point, obviously, too. The defense has been spectacular, and even then, those specific lineups. Basically, I don't want to say that I'm completely flabbergasted, because I'm just going to go utilize this space to go through all the whiffs that I've had. The Celtics slow start. The Celtics, I said this, I believe, to Forsberg, not on last week's show, but on August, that they'd have a middle of the road to quite possibly a bad team defense, and right now they're on pace to have an absolute historic team defense. I have a laundry list of absolute horrible predictions. Are there any of this sort of that you have as well? Because I'm just going to keep going on forever here if you don't sort of cut me off right now, Josue.
I mean, I'll probably, if something comes to mind, I'll throw it in there. But yeah, I mean, heading into the regular season, I certainly had this team not hitting 60 wins per se, but definitely over the 55 mark.
I have been very rude to you thus far as well. I haven't even introduced you yet. Some 10 minutes into the show, it's episode. Yeah,
I was just gonna go with it, Larry. I thought this is.
They should recognize your voice
one
by
of those
now.
Episodes.
But this is episode number 237 of Celtics Beat, presented by DraftKings and Harry's. Ticket contest giveaway December 6th against the Dallas Mavericks. Harrys.com/Celtics. Use that code. Screenshot your receipt. Email me, LHR@CLNSmedia.com. Here with CLNS Media's Josue Pavon. What has been the storyline of the season thus far?
Team defense, Larry. Unlike other defensive teams, I mean, you sort of look at teams like, San Antonio Spurs or, whichever top juggernaut defensive teams that you look at, they all sort of have that staple, that anchor, that guy who sort of everyone follows. And for the Celtics, I feel like you can point out a couple people. You could talk about what Al Horford does up front. You could talk
middle
about
linebacker.
Right. You could talk about what they have in the backcourt, Marcus Smart, what he brings, the intensity that he brings. But I see a lot of guys contributing. I see people who I see a team that's more athletic than we've ever seen. I mean, those corners, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, two guys that were not only two players that we were necessarily thinking like, okay, they're going to have to contribute. This is going to be a lot of pressure on them. We're not sure if they can deliver. How are they going to make up for Gordon Hayward? I mean, I just feel like their athleticism alone has pushed the defense in the starting five to a point where everyone is holding each other accountable. People complain about Kyrie Irving heading into the regular season. I mean, I just feel like the tone has been set from top to bottom, from the front court, whether we're talking, again, Al Horford, the corners, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. Everyone is holding each other accountable. You see that effort coming off the bench, and it's a focus that you have to applaud Brad Stevens for. He's got everyone to buy into the system, and why not? I mean, look at what they're able to do. Look at this quick start. It has a lot to do with the defense, and I think that's ultimately the identity of this team, and that we're going to be talking about come playoff time way, way, way down the road. The length
and the athleticism has given the defense versatility I haven't seen pretty much since the Garnett years. And that was actually the one hope that I held out, was that, the versatility of the defense, inserting Jaylen Brown in the starting lineup. And I mentioned it last week, and it's going to be interpreted as, well, you're beating sort of a crippled man, but not having Isaiah Thomas in the starting lineup or even really playing is making a huge difference for a variety of reasons, which I talked about last week. But just the communication level, that's the one that sort of left me I don't have an answer for, Josue. I don't know how it is this evolved at such an early point of the season for a group that was just slapped together at the end of August.
Well, you look at a couple of games, Larry, you see what the bench was able to do on the defensive side of things. And I think it's a testament to what the starters bring in the overall culture of this team. I mean, Terry Rozier was a guy who we weren't 100% sure if he was going to actually step into that pivotal role next to Marcus Smart. I mean, of course, there was talk that Marcus Smart could start, but at the end of the day, I feel like once it came to media day, once you heard Brad Stevens talking about how he needed Jaylen Brown to be a lockdown defender, I think everyone sort of saw the writing on the wall that Jaylen Brown would be inserted into the starting lineup. So you look at Marcus Smart as that six-man role coming off the bench, but you thought to yourself, who's going to score? You know what I mean? I mean, Marcus Smart, we saw that a little bit last year where he was able to go off here and there, but you kind of were wondering, where can Terry Rozier step it up a bit? And Terry Rozier has not only stepped it up in terms of being someone who you can provide scoring off your bench, but he is defending at a higher level than anyone could have anticipated. He is rebounding at a higher level. I mean, he's always
been a good rebounder. Well, he's always been a great rebounder.
He's always been a great rebounder, but there are some nights where he's the best rebounder on the floor for the Celtics, and that's something that some people just overlook, the effort that you're seeing out of Terry Rozier. And that effort is being translated into the defensive end. I mean, the defensive efficiency numbers are through the roof for this team, and Terry Rozier is certainly one of those top guys with great defensive numbers.
Rebounding is another complete whiff on my end, too. And now that I think is okay to confess to as well, by the way.
I had no idea that was going to be the case for the Celtics team. I mean, it's unbelievable how well they're rebounding this year.
Holiday cash. You need it, and I know where to get it. MyBookie is the place to score serious cash on your sports predictions. Believe it or not, the holidays are just around the corner. And while that means plenty of parties, gifts, and spending, it also means there's lots of football, basketball, hockey games, and you can score big on every day. Man up and play like the pros on game day. You can play the money line, side, or total. MyBookie is your hookup for all your betting needs and offers super fast payouts when you win. Where you bet is just as important as you're betting on. And if you want to make money betting the games, you got to go to mybookie.ag. They're the only site I'd recommend. I trust them, but you don't have to take my word for it. Check them out yourself. They have odds on every matchup and a mobile site that makes your wagering on your smartphone a breeze. Join now, and MyBookie will match your deposit with up to a 50% bonus. Use promo code CelticsBeat to activate the offer. Use promo code CelticsBeat, again, to activate the offer. Visit mybookie.ag today. You play, you win, you get paid. Were you in the camp of this is probably going to take a little time for the Celtics with all those questions that were asked on Media Day?
Yeah, 100%. And I think the biggest reason why was how is this going to affect Brad Stevens? I think he was the one that sort of took what happened to Gordon Hayward the hardest. I mean, I think heading into the regular season, these two did a really good job of downplaying their relationship. I think these two, no coach wants to be looked at as someone who has a favorite on the team, but for personal reasons, for the history, I mean, for what they were able to do at Butler, I think there's a special place, in Brad Stevens' heart for Hayward, for Gordon Hayward. And I think that's something that's sort of downplayed and as it should be, no coach wants to come off that way. And that's not going to do anyone good for the rest of the Celtics, all the rest of the players on the Celtics roster. However, I felt like Brad Stevens bounced back. The way he bounced back from that was very impressive. I thought that it was going to be a stretch where that he was going to.
I got in trouble for this last week, but honestly, sometimes I got to be a straight shooter. You're talking about the team chemistry. I thought the Hayward injury helped. I really do. And
100%.
That's kind of I don't even want to say that's a hot take. That is flat out. I mean, that's actually kind of sticking your neck out there because it's, I guess, kind of classless to say. But I used. This is even a little more out of touch, especially since it's coming up. I said it had a Pearl Harbor effect. It had a galvanizing effect on the collective.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the players are. This is already a tight knit group. I feel like, and I feel like no one's going to say, that they're that they sort of seen what Brad Stevens was going through. This is just honest. This is my honest opinion, Larry. I feel like Brad Stevens was sort of going through it a bit after the Gordon Hayward thing, and everyone rallied together and sort of put forth the effort that they needed to do to get past those two games. And listen, there was no way the Celtics was going to win that second game against Milwaukee. I mean, it was the second night of a back-to-back after what happened in Cleveland, and they nearly pulled it off in that fourth quarter. I mean, this is a team that was, really rallied behind what happened and held each other accountable. But listen, also, I feel like a lot of the time, and we're going to hear this all season long, oh, man, look how these Celtics are playing right now. Look how they're doing. Oh, if they had Gordon Hayward, this team could be this or this team could be that. Listen, I don't think basketball quite works that way. I don't think that you just add Hayward's 20 or 21 points per game into the equation and all of a sudden you have 67 wins in one season. It doesn't quite work that way. I think Hayward going down – I should say I think Jaylen Brown performing at this level, Jason Tatum performing at this level doesn't necessarily happen the way it is right now if Gordon Hayward is still in the mix. However, I hate to use the phrase, blessing in disguise, but I mean, I feel like you can't help but think this is going to expedite the process. You got Jaylen Brown getting these experience, getting these big time minutes, getting these big performances on the brightest stage or one of the brightest stages you're going to get, in the regular season. And it's happened in November. That's something that's going to not only expedite his experience, his mindset when it comes to playoff time, but I think every single person from top to bottom, I mean, every young player, especially Jason Tatum, I mean, the guy's a teenager, and all that is going to play a big role come way down the road, come playoff time.
When the Hayward injury happened, I'm not sure if you listened to the show that I did with Evan Valeni, we were absolutely mortified. And we scoffed at the talking point of, well, you know what? It could be a blessing in disguise because it'll give more time for the young players. And it has, and that is actually, I don't want to say proven it to be the case of that being a blessing in disguise. It's actually been very beneficial to Brown and Tatum, which I feel like there is some capacity we have to dedicate a little of this show to, especially with Jaylen Brown. If we're talking about bad predictions, that's one of my most infamous ones here in the 6 years that I've been doing the show, was just how adamant I was pretty much against that draft pick. But just to sort of touch upon it on one final point, I just think if we were the primarily fear that I had going into the year was team chemistry, I thought that was solved literally in an instant with such a catastrophe that it united the team as a collective, and they were able to galvanize behind it. Okay, let's go to Jaylen Brown. We were talking about the signature win of the season. Jaylen Brown, I thought his signature game of his career was that game he had 22 points against Sacramento. I had Isaiah Thomas here, who is his Plato to Jaylen's Aristotle, literally, because Isaiah calls his school that he has with Jaylen Brown the Academy, for goodness sake. So I'll give that fun little reference. Had Isaiah here that week after the Kings game. Now, of course, signature game of his career was Thursday night against Golden State. Nothing really more needs to be said. There is just so many superlatives to discuss with Jaylen Brown. I gave a mea culpa on that draft pick. I want to say pretty much mid-January last year when he was inserted into the starting lineup, and not only did the team not miss a beat, that was when they really started moving during the regular season last year. I mentioned how they had been 13-12 at one point. They were messing around with the starting lineup. Bradley goes down with an injury. Brown goes in. They end up winning 10 of the 11 games that he played when he was in the starting lineup, and that really gave a precursor to how I thought he was going to be very valuable to the team on a defensive end. I actually, after the Hayward injury, when they were saying, oh, this could be a blessing in disguise because this is going to give Jaylen Brown more minutes, and this is awesome, Jason Tatum more minutes, I was saying to myself, I think this could be the worst thing that happens to Jaylen Brown, because I thought he came into this season, Josue, with a lot of pressure on him. I really do, because it was just the natural of, hey, he was a third pick in the draft. He showed a lot of promising signs at the end of last season, cracking the rotation of a team that ended up making the Eastern Conference Final and actually having a role on a team that was a playoff team that had a deep run. So then it was just, hey, just start mounting expectations on him. So he already had a lot of expectations coming into the season. Once again, there were even more expectations placed on him with Crowder and Avery Bradley being shifted out, and he needed to be a real ace on the defensive end. Then there were now going to be even more expectations placed on him because there was a vacuum offensively with the Gordon Hayward injury. Someone's got to score some points.
Most improved player in the NBA. That's my bold prediction. This guy...
I have not been following that race, quote unquote, just so you know. But if you have, do fill me in.
Listen, I don't think it was a huge pressure season for him. I mean, of course, defensively it was, but I don't think Hayward going down for him applied any extra pressure that wasn't already there. Like I said, media day, Brad Stevens, one of the first things he said was this guy needs to be a lockdown defender. We all knew he had the tools to do that. We know his athleticism, and that was something that was certainly in the scouting report when the Celtics drafted him. This is why I love this pick. This is why I was hoping the Celtics would draft him, because I felt like they needed to fill that void. Jay Crowder, of course, was that guy, for the Celtics, but I feel like they needed someone who was a bit younger, someone who had plenty of upside, who had a higher ceiling than Jay Crowder.
They have a different physical skill set as well. They're built
very different physical skill set. But one thing I got to admit that I didn't see coming, that I didn't predict, was his jump shot. I just feel like you're seeing a better jump shot out of Jaylen Brown.
The academy, baby.
The academy is coming through. I mean, you see more of a confidence in that shot, in the arc, in the flow. I mean, he's the catch and shoot from the corner. That's a shot that's going to be available to him. That's the same shot that was available to Jay Crowder. The same shot that for a lot of possessions was available to Avery Bradley. You add Kyrie Irving into the mix, and those are the shots that you're going to have, the open looks. And until people start really paying attention to him or giving him the proper one-on-one defense that he will eventually deserve. I'm not going to go as far as to say that you have to make sure you cover him every single time, but as he continues to develop and as he continues to become a threat from outside, whether we're talking about three or just inside the mid-range game, that's only going to make this team much stronger and only make him more better. The shots are there, Larry. The shots are there for him.
And that's the one. I'm not sure if you heard me on the show before the season. I thought that was the most imperative improvement that he had to make. This was, of course, before the Hayward injury, because so much of the offense is predicated upon it. This was even, too, when Isaiah Thomas was who we thought was going to be on the team, that eventually Kyrie Irving was, By the way, amazing. 25 minutes of the show. Kyrie Irving's name I don't think has been mentioned once. Nonetheless, I thought defensively, from what I saw last January, and to the point where he found his way to crack his way into the rotation, I thought he was going to figure that out. Emotionally, I don't know how the heck I can describe this without sounding tacky, but you know what? If we're going to use the Golden State game to provide anecdotal examples, the plays that he makes, particularly at home, that can generate a ton of emotional energy. You know what those kind of plays are. We can reference a million of them against Golden State. He makes at least one of those a game-ish, in my opinion. That I knew was always going to be there. The corner three, I mean, it really, hate to come down to concrete, I hate to be a simpleton, but the corner three was pretty much going to be it. And I think that still has to get even better than what it is. But hey, what is he, by the way? Is he 21 or 22 or 20?
He just turned 21 last month. Yeah, they were celebrating his 21st birthday. He can go out to the bar now. Yeah. That's how young this guy is as of last month. Huh? Yeah, I don't know. I don't see Jaylen as a big drinker. Yeah. But yes, see, Larry, the athleticism, when you become a threat from the outside, I mean, you go out there and jump out to cover him, and he'll blow right past you. I mean, we've seen it throughout the regular season so far. And he's also not afraid to take it to you. Whether we're talking about LeBron James, Kevin Durant. I mean, this is one play in particular from Thursday night where it was just catch and shoot. Durant was right there, and he just went up for the dunk. I mean, zero hesitation, first quarter, dialed in. And I think players are starting to pick up on that, and the physicality too. I mean, he's not the most strongest, he's not the he's definitely built a bit, but he's not built as in like LeBron built, but he will push himself into the paint and force contact and get to the hoop and get to the free throw line. I mean, that's just something that we're seeing right now at age 21 that is only going to get better. He's only going to get stronger, but that athleticism is going to take him a long way in this league. He's certainly going to be a star, I feel like. Yeah,
to sum it up, Jaylen Brown, awesome. Oh, real quick, actually, I had Zeke here a couple weeks ago. You said he's going to be a star. I asked Zeke point blank. This is a prediction show, nonetheless. Let's make some predictions. Will he be a multiple-time All-Star? And hey, multiple-time All-Stars, just, he can make 2 All-Star teams, but will he be a multiple-time All-Star?
Down the road, absolutely. Okay. Then when I say down the road, could be next year. Not this year. Could be next year. I don't know.
Hope the road's Causeway Street and not, with Zeke 3 championship drive.
That could be a legitimate concern.
It is.
Yeah, that could be a concern.
One thing that I got to do, I have to do, of course, a plug. We are, of course, supported by sponsors. We have a very important sponsor right now. It is DraftKings. Use the code CLNS at DraftKings.com to play free fantasy basketball with your first deposit for your share. Excuse me, Josue, my goodness. For your share at $10,000 in total prizes tonight. Use code CLNS at DraftKings.com to play for free. This sponsor, very important to the network. We mention every single week. Support the network, support Celtics Beat, support Josue Pavon, support the Garden Report, support the YouTube channel, support the leading all-in provider of audio-video coverage of the Boston Celtics. This one is imperative to us. Use code CLNS at DraftKings.com to play free. So I do have to give a little bit of the read, Josue, so hang in there for me. Listen up, Who fans. Basketball season is back, as we know. That's why we're having this Celtics show at this point. But and now that your favorite hardwood heroes have returned to action, it's time for you to put your fantasy knowledge to the test, to win huge cash prizes every night playing one-day fantasy basketball at DraftKings.com. DraftKings.com/CLNS. Okay, let's finish this on a great note. Kyrie Irving is in the MVP mix. I know it's not even Thanksgiving yet, but listen, it is the internet age, the Twitter sphere. It is mindlessly searching through Instagram hashtags. I made a crack at it a couple weeks ago where we're already having who's the MVP of the league like 4 possessions in an opening night. Kyrie Irving's up there with, I guess, LeBron and Harden. They're there automatically, although you can't LeBron this year with Cleveland. But give me some other ones. I know Giannis from, we've seen him play the Celtics a couple times. Porzingis is having this great year, but it's the Knicks, so sorry. But Kyrie Irving, how possible is this MVP? I think actually if at this point, I think it's highly probable. I can't remember who. Oh, you know who it was? It was Michael Lee of Yahoo Sports who said so much of the MVP, who gets the MVP, is based on narrative. It's based on story. What's the biggest story in the season thus far? The Celtics. Today, the Celtics. Right. MVP, right. Duh, ding, 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 Kyrie Irving. I'm not guaranteeing it, but I would put the odds at See, at this point, I think the Celtics are going to finish at the top of the Eastern Conference. That's going to be the storyline of the season. We take Golden State for granted. I still think Cleveland's going to rebound a little bit, so we'll take them for granted a little bit. We don't take the Celtics for granted. I think it is going to be Kyrie for MVP, and at the very least, I put his odds at about 40%.
Yeah, you know what? That was my preseason prediction, and you know what? When
you had Kyrie as MVP,
I had Kyrie as MVP. I mean, I should show you the
listen to the Causeway Street podcast.
Yeah, I should show you the Causeway Street podcast from October. That was my bold prediction with Kawhi Leonard at second. I wasn't sure how long he's going to be out, but I still really like Kawhi Leonard. But anyways, yeah, you know what? That was my bold prediction. That was my prediction heading into the regular season before Hayward even went down, and it's certainly still a possibility. A strong one. If the Celtics can keep this up, of course, I have to agree with you. I do think they will win the East. I think the story behind it certainly helps. Absolutely. I mean, the biggest story of the offseason was Kyrie not wanting to play with LeBron anymore, wanting to do his own thing, heading into an amazing situation here in Boston, and the team has flourished. Although I feel like this team isn't the type of team that's going to rely on him the way we've seen other teams rely on their MVP guys, whether we're talking about, of course, most recently. I mean, what Russell Westbrook did for the Thunder last year was incredible, not only for him to average a triple-double, but for them to just count on him constantly. This guy got him through so many games, pushed him into the playoffs. I mean, it was remarkable. I think for this case, there's a lot more help for Kyrie Irving. I think there's a lot of games where other guys sort of step up. However, I do feel like Kyrie Irving hasn't even reached his complete stride yet. I think he's sort of just incorporating everyone. He's buying into this culture. Everything's still pretty new to him. But look out for in December when Kyrie scores 19 of his 41 in the fourth quarter, or Kyrie puts the team on his back and comes back from an 18-point deficit. I mean, those are the type of performances, those type of signature wins are going to start adding up. And I think that's going to make it probably a lot tougher for all the other candidates when it comes to the MVP conversation.
Like I said, it's not even Thanksgiving. The Celtics already have all the signature wins they need. I hope this season does not remind me of that 2011 season where they had won every single relevant game that was on the calendar. It was almost like they peaked. I'm not even going to go talk about everything that happened that season.
And then they gracefully bowed out.
I know,
gracefully
exactly.
bowed out.
But anyways, I made this a nice little prediction recap show of all the things that I've been way off on. We finished on a nice positive note there with Kyrie. So just to clean the records here, Celtics bench, I thought it would stink. Of course, not a complete whiff, but it doesn't stink. Same thing, Marcus Morris, he's contributed. I thought he would be a nothing. And I just have to say that Aaron Baines is awesome only because we have an incredible Australian base that listens to this show, as you know very much too.
No, he is awesome, Larry. Don't sell him short. Okay. You know what? That was my biggest concern heading into this. Not only the defense, but the bench. I kept saying over and over on my podcast on Causeway Street, this team does not have a bench. Who is going to produce off this bench? And lo and behold, look what we're seeing right now. But hey, Larry, let me ask you this. Cleveland, are you still concerned about them? Are they still a threat?
Yeah. Down the line, yes, they are.
Yes. Right. Okay. Can we get that out there for all you diehard Celtics fans? Let's pump the brakes a bit when we're talking about Celtics going to be in the NBA Finals. I mean, this is still a team with the best player in the world, right? And LeBron James, the guy who happens to make it to every single NBA Finals for the last, 7 years?
Last time they were not in the NBA Finals, the Celtics knocked them out, and I believe that both of us were in college. It was a long time ago.
Yes. The last time was the Celtics versus Lakers in the finals, 2010. So think about that for a second. I mean, this is a team that always figures things out, and they're designed to perform in June. So I don't think that it's quite set in stone that the Celtics are going to be in the NBA Finals. I still think the Cleveland Cavaliers, at least in my opinion, they're still my favorite to come out of the East. But the Celtics are knocking. As Brad Stevens says before what was it, the Golden State game, I believe he said that this team still has a lot of work to do. And I think that he is talking about if they're going to come out of the East, if they're going to knock off the Cleveland Cavaliers, they're going to have to continue to get better.
Today's episode was brought to you by DraftKings and Harry's. Enter to win a pair of Celtics tickets against the Dallas Mavericks by going to harrys.com/Celtics to take advantage of Harry's special offer trial set. Screenshot your receipt and email it to enter into a drawing for 2 Celtics tickets against the Dallas Mavericks on December 6th at the TD Garden. Email lhr@clnsmedia.com. Your receipt, harrys.com/Celtics. Music was provided by Chuck Dietz and Steph LeGrateau. For graphic designer Scott Dillon, the founder of the network, Nick Gelso. This is Larry H. Russell, the executive producer and host of Celtics Beat, powered by CLNS Media.